So can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, awesome. My name's Jeremy, and I'm a mentor in this cohort this year. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the UX Whiteboard Challenge. And just a quick show of hands, is this like something anyone else has heard of or familiar with, or is this like a completely new thing that is totally foreign to everybody? Like a quick show of hands if you guys have heard of this before. Nobody? Okay, not many. I know, Monty, we've gone through this before. So in this case, usually what happens nowadays is when you go for a UX interview, a lot of times they'll either do two things. They'll either give you some type of take-home test. Before we start, are we recording it again? Did you click record again?
It's been recorded.
Oh, okay. It's still recording. Cool. Right on. All right. So you either get two things will happen. Either they'll ask you for, three things. Maybe they won't do anything. But if they do ask you to do some kind of design challenge, it'll be either a take-home thing where they might give you a week or two, or they might ask you to do a challenge with them in the interview, and you'll have maybe like an hour or so to complete this challenge. And it's kind of terrifying. It's frightening to think about. But frankly, I think it's a better use of your time than this take-home thing. And I think as someone who does a lot of UX interviews, I would prefer to do an in-person just because I get to see how they think and how the person interacts with me as a potential colleague. And essentially, it's a way for us to give you a design prompt and see what you do. How do you think? What questions do you ask? How do you interact with the team? Do you know what you're doing? Right? That's really the end of the day. We're trying to test to see if you know what you're doing. Just a little bit about me. Let's see. Am I in presentation mode? I am present. I started using Miro. This thing is so cool. I love it. You can do presentations. So just a little bit about me. My name is Jeremy. I'm a product designer, software interaction architect now at GE Aviation. I'm originally from New Orleans. And so I've been doing this for about like 10, 15 years, doing software specifically for about 10. And right now I'm what's called an interaction architect, UX architect, which is kind of like connecting the dots all over the various parts of a larger software ecosystem or portfolio. So I don't really do much actual design anymore. Most of my days are filled with meetings. So it's fun to get to do stuff like this because I get to actually kind of flex my creative muscles a little bit and do that. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's a whiteboard challenge, why are they important, what's the whole reason we're doing them, how do we prep for them, understand the process, some common mistakes that people make. And then we're actually going to hop into one. We're actually going to do one together. So I've got, if you on the Miro board, you can see down below, we've got like sticky notes and kind of mock what this would be like if we were actually in a setting, in an interview. And I'm going to have you guys tell me what to do. You guys are going to give me the prompts. Or I'm going to give you the prompt and you're going to give me, like the problems, the user needs and goals and wants and all those things. And we're going to do this together. And it's really not as terrifying as it sounds. And we'll get through it, I promise. All right, so the whiteboard challenge. So this is like just a simple prompt that an interviewer will give you. And it's really to get an insight into your abilities as a designer, as a UX designer. Do you ask the right questions? Do you ask the things that would spark the right types of insights? Are you able to understand the right types of insights from the data that you're given? And what is your process? Are you insightful? Are you not? Are you asking the right questions? Are you not? Are you talking? Are you engaging? Or are you not? That's really the whole point of these whiteboard challenges. The thing to keep in mind here is just you shouldn't overthink it. So if everyone in this call, I would assume, is a UX designer at some level, and you've had some experience doing some type of UX work, you've probably got some process that you already follow. We're just compressing it down into an hour and everyone's watching. But it's just the process you already follow, right? It's not anything different. You're not asking to do anything you don't normally do. We're just doing it together in a room and everyone's kind of taking part, right? That's really the only difference. So it's a pretty straightforward process, in my opinion. Everybody's got their own processes for how they do UX. This is kind of mine and how I do it. The first thing we do is we contextualize the problem. Then we define the problem. Then we come up with some ideas. We ideate a little bit. Then we refine some of those ideas. We start to sketch. And then lastly, we summarize, we explain why we did what we did, the decisions that we made, and how we might change them if we thought they were good, or if we thought we could have done better, or, how we're going to validate this thing, or how we're going to work with engineers to get this thing built, those types of things, right? So it's a very simple process. This is pretty much exactly what a regular UX project would look like over the course of 6 months or however long. We're just doing it in an hour. So let's break this down a little bit before we hop into our whiteboard challenge, and we'll talk a little bit about each step. So the first thing, contextualize the environment, right? So again, we've usually got about an hour, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the interview. So the thing to keep in mind with these whiteboard challenges is you want to time box these various processes so that you're not spending all your time on one, because what we don't want to do is have them give us a problem and all we do is try to understand the problem for an hour, right? That defeats the whole purpose of this challenge. We want to see, how does this person act under pressure? Are they able to move? Are they able to do time management? What's their time management skills like, right? So when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we're spending the right amount of time on each one. So about 10 minutes. This could change. It could be more, it could be less. You might spend 5 minutes. That's great. That's fine. It doesn't have to be 10, but just keep in mind, we don't want to spend a whole hour on this particular piece. So in the contextualize the environment, this is what we're thinking about. We want to list out everything we know, right? We're given a problem, list it out. What do we know? What do we not know? Who are the users? Are we asked to design an app for a specific platform? Android, iOS, desktop, mobile? Is it a web app? Is it some other kind of app? Is it augmented reality? Is it virtual reality? These are the kinds of things we want to list out. Are there budgetary constraints, right? You only have $10 to build an app. Well, we're probably not going to be able to ideate and do very much. We only have $10. Usually in this case, this is where you want to interact with the interviewers. So a lot of times what people will do is they will ask, can I use you or pretend like you are my user? And every time someone says that, I say, yes. Ask me whatever question you want. And so they will start to almost do like mini research in this phase, right? Like this phase and the next one that we're going to talk about, where we define the problem, but you can kind of combine those if you want to. But you start to say, who are you? What do you like? What do you not like? What are you, a woman? Are you a man? Or, whatever. Those are the kinds of things we want to just get all that information. And we want to declare assumptions because, again, we only have an hour. So we might say, well, we're going to assume that something. We're going to assume that we are building a desktop web application, or we are assuming that we are going to build an offline only something or other, right? So we want to declare those assumptions because everything that we come up with later is going to be based on all the things that the discovery essentially that we've done in this phase, right? So that's phase one. The next step will be defining the problem. Now, this sort of combines with the first one, but we're taking those insights and we're defining clearly a problem. So we want to list out the potential problems. So we know that, this is a woman looking for an apartment in New York City, right? What is the problem? They have problems finding something. They have problems, doing something else, right? So these are where we start to list out the problems, and we want to attempt to solve them with whatever solutions we come up with in a minute. We might come up with a ton of problems, right? And eventually what we're going to do is pick one or two, and we'll start to maybe ideate on those. We don't have time to do everything. So again, we don't want to get in the weeds in this phase, but we want to say, what are these problems? What people have? Okay, these sound really challenging. Maybe that's too hard for an hour. Maybe there's one like right in the middle, and we're going to choose these problems to maybe come up with some solutions in the next couple of phases, right? All right, so then we ideate through the potential solutions. So we start to say, how might we do this? How might we solve for this problem, right? We know that there's a woman in New York looking for an apartment. How might we make her search easier? How might we make sure her results are safe? How might we give her a better experience? Something like that. So these are where we start to come up with potential solutions. And again, at this point, you might have noticed we haven't designed anything. Right? We're now 20 minutes into the hour. We haven't designed anything, right? And the reason for that, in my opinion, as a UX professional, an application is useless if it doesn't solve the right problem, right? If it doesn't solve the right problem, there is no point in designing anything to begin with. Because keep in mind, UX design is not graphic design. UX design is not visual design. UX design is solving a problem for a person, for a user, right? We always want to ask ourselves, what are we doing to make someone's life better? right? And if that solution could be the most beautiful thing in the world, if it doesn't solve a problem, it's useless. So what we're doing up to this point is we are finding the right solution to solve for, or the right problem to solve for, right? Does that make sense? So we haven't actually designed anything yet. That comes next. So the next phase, once we get all these potential solutions, how might we do something? How might we, again, in the example of our problem statement may have been a woman is trying to find an apartment in New York, design an app for her, right? In this case, we may have picked only one of those solutions and we want to start designing at this point. We want to start sketching some stuff out. So this is where we start to put the marker to the whiteboard and start sketching out some ideas. We start to say, how might we have a better onboarding experience, right? And we can start to sketch out a workflow or a series of interactions at that point. So in this point, this is when we're starting simple. We don't want to get too deep in the weeds. We don't want to, try to write out every form field. Just, use a line, and we're going to have first name, last name, whatever. This is meant to be really basic. It is not meant to show off your design skills, especially if you're a UX designer. Visual design is important, but it's not the main reason we want to hire you, right? We want to know, can you even get this interaction correct? So that's what we're starting to do here. Now, once we've gone through and we spent about 20 minutes or so mapping out all those things, at that point, we want to start and explain why we did what we did. Now, keep in mind that we do want to be talking the entire time. Part of the interview process is not just to show an output, right? It's how will I work with those other people that are interviewing? That's what I'm asking myself as an interviewer. Can I work with this person? Is this person going to be really difficult? Are they going to engage with the team? Are they going to be a team member that I want to pull into a room and help solve a problem with me? Or are they going to just want to go off in their own world and like heads down and like, don't bother me until I'm done? Those are the kinds of personalities we're seeing. So in this case, what I want to be doing the whole time is talking. But when I get to this phase, this is where I'll start to say, I think this problem will be really useful because it will solve this problem for this person, and here's why. You might also get into how you might want to validate this. So, we made some assumptions in the beginning. We aren't sure. We need to go do a follow-up usability study with X types of participants to review and make sure that what we designed was the correct solution. Or how can I take this to the engineering teams and actually build this thing? Right? Because remember, our designs are just the first step in a much larger process, which is getting all these things actually built and produced and sent to production so that a user can actually use it. So if we can't work with an engineering team, guess what? Our job is pointless. We serve no purpose if we can't work with an engineering team to get our designs built, right? So how could you work with an engineering team? All right, that might be something else you want to talk about here. So that's basically it. Very high level. Now down here, don't worry, because we list this all out down here, and I got it all. Everything I put up here, I put again at the bottom. So before we jump into the next part, I want to know: are there any questions? Is anyone completely lost or terrified at this point? What are you guys thinking? I want to hear from you. If I hear silence, it means you guys are completely lost. That which is a bad thing, I guess. It means I'm not doing my job well. Nothing at all. Nobody has anything to say. All right. That's fair. You guys are probably nervous. Okay, so here's what I did. I went to a website. There's a website called sharpen.design. And this is just like a random design prompt generator, right? And here's the cool thing about this. I think these things, you only get better at this with practice. So the first time that we do this, it's going to be awful. It's going to be miserable. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be terrified. You're going to say, I'm so bad at this. I don't deserve to get a job. At least I do. I want you to know that this only gets easier if you practice. So Amani and I were actually doing this kind of thing a couple of weeks back. And, I was like, you should like just get a bottle of wine with your friends and like just do this on a Friday night or something. And just turn into like a drinking game. Every time you come up with a sticky, you take a shot or something. This is the kind of thing where I think you turn it into like a fun thing. When you go to an interview, it becomes fun and it's not stressful and it's not scary. It's a fun thing that you get to do with just a new group of people you don't know. Right. So this website, sharpen.design, it's got a random design prompt. You just click a button and it's like, design a thing for this, some random thing. And one of them happened to be design an app for Ford. And I was like, well, what could Ford possibly need an app for? So I came up with this design prompt. I totally made this up. But Ford dealerships are losing money on normally profitable routine maintenance. Okay. So a little bit deeper into this, Ford dealerships have noticed that the technicians are spending more time on various tasks than estimated, right? So like oil changes, things like that. This is leading many dealerships to lose money on normally profitable routine maintenance work. Okay. So we want to help Ford create a solution for dealerships to better estimate future maintenance and return to profitability. Okay. So this is like an example of a design prompt. What we're going to do first is we want to contextualize the environment. So I'm not going to do anything. I want you guys to do something. I want you to start calling out stuff. I want you to tell me what to put on these sticky notes. Now we have a couple of or 5 different categories of sticky notes that'll help us with all the other steps. And what we're going to do is we're going to refer back to this as we start to ideate and draw solutions and things like that. Okay. So the first one is we want to know what our constraints are, right? The next one is what is a user goal? The next one is what does a user need? Okay. Now those sound very similar. The difference between a goal and a need, think of it as like I'm going to a restaurant, right? My goal is to eat dinner or eat dinner and leave, right? If my needs are, I need a place to sit, right? I need a menu to order. I need a way to pay. Those are needs versus a goal, which is the end result. Does that make sense? The difference between those two, they kind of sound similar, but one is an end result. One is a specific immediate thing I need to do to get to that end result. All right, a user want. Now a user want is a little bit different than a need. Is like kind of a nice to have. Like I want to be left alone, right? I want to do my work. I want a simple thing, right? Whereas a need might be, I need a form field to fill out something. Okay, a little bit different, very similar, but a little bit different. And then some assumptions. I assume that we're doing this. I assume something else. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions so far? Anybody got any questions? All right.
Hi.
Go
So
ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
In like a normal whiteboard challenge, would they like these kind of like known constraints and user goals, would that be stuff that they put up there, or would that be just
No.
us knowing?
That's yeah. So
Okay.
that's it. So a lot of times what they'll do is like when I'm doing these, for instance, I have all this stuff like, and I'm just making it up. I might not even know. I might have like 10 meetings before this interview and I had no time to prepare. So I could just be making it up. And the thing is, we want to know, are you going to ask those questions? Right? That's kind of what we want to know. So sometimes the constraints are in here, right? So we know it's going to be for technicians, people at a dealership. That's one thing that we know. We know that the idea would be to make someone more efficient in theory to increase profitability. We know that I need to have some insights into some data that might be hidden somehow or might not being collected, right? So I'm starting to kind of think through and analyze. It's like a word problem when you're in school, right? Like a train is traveling at X miles an hour and a train, whatever. You got to break those down into the knowns so that you can turn it into like some kind of equation to solve a math problem. It's very similar here. All right. So let's just start. I have some that I already did, but I'm not going to show them until you guys start to get like super stuck. So I would love it if you guys just throw some stuff out. Or even take these over here. You're welcome to grab if you haven't used this before, Miro before. Over on the left, you can grab these little or not the left. I guess it depends on what. Actually, let me get out of presentation mode. The little arrow, similar to like Illustrator and stuff. You can grab it and move them around. You can hit Control C or Command C and copy and paste. So start throwing them out if you want to talk, and I'll do it. Or if you guys want to just start doing one. Again, right here, we're thinking out loud, we're talking. We want to be sure we're asking questions. So if you have any questions, you can pretend like I'm the user and ask me some questions, or I'm the customer and I came to you with this app. So in theory, I would have a lot of information that you may find useful. So go ahead and just, anybody want to talk out, speak out, feel free to do that. I want to know what you guys are thinking too.
So just, I have a question about the tasks that you're doing.
Sure.
But first of all, my question is, am I asking you, or would you kind of drift between the technician and like Ford head office? Would I say? Would I be able to?
Potentially.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I mean, those are kind of one of those things where you just ask like the interviewer, like, hey, can you pretend to be the users? And they'll usually say, yeah, sure. And then I might put a hat, like I might put the headquarters hat on, I might put the technician hat on. Yeah. So, you know, and maybe you'll have two people interviewing. So maybe like one person will be the technician and one person will be the, you know, the corporate office or something.
Okay. So the tasks that you're completing that are kind of taking too much time, are they mandatory tasks? Are they optional tasks?
What do you mean when you say task? Like,
so on the question, on the problem, it says that the technicians are spending more time on various tasks, but it's, I don't, is that?
Yeah, that meant, I guess, like they're spending time like changing oil, like it's taking them longer to change oil than it should.
Okay, no, that's fine then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I want to know what you guys are thinking. What's going on in your heads right now? Is anyone just totally lost? Has no idea what to do? I'm gonna give it like another 2 minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would the technician be using the app as well as the user?
Maybe they are the user. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't designed anything. We don't know. This is it. This is the kind of stuff you're going to be asked. So that's an interesting point here, right? And I'll go ahead and I'll jump in and say this. So we've got a lot of things to unpack here, right? I'm giving you options. Am I asking you to design a solution for a technician? Am I asking you to design a solution for a manager who wants to analyze the data a technician collects? Am I asking you to design a solution for the technician to enter some data and someone to do something else, right? So this is where you start to make those assumptions. Like, I assume that we will be designing a solution for who? And then when you go to list out the problems, you could say there is a problem for the managers to have a better insight into this. There's a problem for, you know, and I guess I'm jumping ahead here, but I think these two steps kind of go together. But there's a problem for the technicians to enter their time correctly, maybe, right? So then when we go to refine those solutions, we say we're only going to focus on one. Even though we've identified the problem, we're only going to design a solution for one today because we have, 30 minutes to do that part. Does that make sense?
Right.
All right, so let's see. We've got technicians connecting with clients, clients connecting with the technician in the smooth transaction, technician time management. Okay. Let's see. Be able to track the time. Okay. And give it another minute. It looks like you guys are working pretty hard, and then I'll go and just come up with something that I came up with. What else? Anybody else thinking anything? Is this like gonna? I wanted you to know that this gets easier the more you do it. I promise. Or not easier, it just gets less stressful, I guess.
I hope so.
Oh, and so the sticky notes, if you double click in them, you can actually type inside of that sticky note. Just so you know, if anyone's having trouble, hasn't used Miro before, it's kind of confusing. Okay, so that's good. And I assume there will need to be some sort of reporting. Yep, okay. I assume the management technicians will be using it. Okay, yep, that's good. All right, so here, let me go and I hit it. I don't know if you guys can actually see it because I think I'm technically the facilitator. But here's some that I created down here. I'm going to just throw these up towards the top. Whoop. All right, so I'm going to put these up here and we can kind of go. These are some of the ones that I came up with. All right, so known constraints. Now, again, keep in mind, known constraints could be any number of things. It could be budgetary. It could be the environment that the software will be used in. It could be the people using them, etc. So here's some things I came up with, right? So known constraints. A messy shop floor, right? A lot of oil, a lot of grease, right? Maybe they don't have like, a table. I didn't put that on here. Maybe they don't have workstations to put a table. That could be one. Not a lot of room for hardware, I guess I'll say. There's big, expensive machines all around. Difficult to run wires and cables, right? So what is that telling us? Maybe a wireless solution, maybe a handheld device, maybe a watch device, maybe something that like isn't going to need power supply, right? Okay, that's kind of what we're thinking here. All right, so here's a user's goal. Here's some stuff I came up with. Managers want lower costs. Right? At the end of the day, we want to figure out how to lower costs. Managers want to increase profits, right? Kind of a little sort of related, but a little bit the same. Mechanics want to finish work quickly. They want to be done, right? Let's see, the user needs. I put like mechanics need their hands free to do work, right? The users want. Mechanics don't want to be bothered by management. They don't want to be nagged by management. The user wants, management doesn't want to nag technicians. All right. They don't want to go and bother everybody. So what is that telling us? Like some simple way to maybe the software should prompt people to do certain things. Maybe there's some way to alert them that they need to do something without having to have the cross communication. Hey, you didn't enter your time again, that kind of thing. And again, these aren't everything. Here's a few that I came up with. And then some assumptions. I assume cars are complex computers. Cars are very complex, right? I assume that estimates are currently wrong. If we're not charging enough for services, it probably means that we assume services will take less than they are. And so our estimates are wrong. I assume internet connectivity in these shops are good. I'm just going to make that assumption. It might not be true. If we're doing something in the middle of like the rainforest or something, there might not be internet, but we're not doing that. If I asked you for design an app for Ford in a rainforest, then maybe there isn't internet connectivity. So that would be something we'd have to think about, right? But in this case, we're assuming internet connectivity is good. So we can use the internet. That's great. I assume that mechanics are not being sloppy and that like they're not just like cutting corners. I assume they're doing their work the way it should be done. And it's just taking longer. I'm just making that assumption. And I'm assuming mechanics know what they're doing, right? I assume these aren't like just bumbling idiots that don't know how to fix a car. So some other assumptions that we could make here, just throwing this out. We could make, or some, actually, I guess that's not, never mind. I'm kind of jumping into the next phase. We'll wait a second. So anyway, does that make sense? Any other thoughts, since I showed those, any other things that come to your mind that maybe could help us with this problem statement that we're going to come up with in a minute? Anybody at all? Don't be shy. Okay.
I can't think of anything, but I think it was helpful seeing yours because I wasn't thinking of the environment that the problem was occurring in. So that helped.
So, those are the things that like you want to ask because, you can I've seen some like really specific ones, like stuff that's like totally like design a thing for a space suit on Mars or something, right? Like, there's a lot of constraints going on there, right? You're on another planet, time communication takes like 10 minutes or whatever to go from wherever. So there's a lot of constraints that totally change depending on the context that you are building this app and the environment that you're going to be using the app. That also changes quite a bit. This is an example. I used to work at GE Power, and a lot of these software that we would build would be like technicians and engineers going out to like the middle of nowhere at a power plant, like in Asia, for instance, and they would be in the middle of nowhere having to go fix a power plant, like a giant gas turbine, for instance, and there's no internet at all, none to speak of. They didn't have they had like you had to plug stuff in, but you're in the middle of this like giant thing with no internet. So like offline first was like a huge consideration. And so because of that, there's a lot of things to keep in mind. Like, how do you notify a user that the thing that they're entering might not actually be the most current and up-to-date thing, or the thing that they're viewing may not be up to date, right? So there's a lot of stuff as you go to design these interactions where context plays a whole lot into it. So make sure you're asking all these questions. Ask a million questions. I want nobody ask me any question. I think Deborah, except about the task. That was it. So nobody asked me any questions. Maybe Imani did. I think maybe Sandra. I don't know. But I wanted to nobody asked me any questions. That's the thing. We got to be asking a million questions. I want to think out loud. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you guys are. Everybody put sticky notes here and nobody asked me anything. So keep that in mind. Part of this is being vocal and seeing how you interact with these people that are interviewing you, because they want to know, can I work with this person? Is this person going to be a good coworker? That's the whole part of this. Soft skills, regardless of the hard skills, soft skills are critical. All right. So the next step, now we're going to define the problem. Okay. So we're going to focus on just, we're going to get a list of stuff here so that we can then next step focus on one or two. But we want to make, what did I put here? Make assumptions about problems and we want to state them out loud. So we're taking a lot of these assumptions. Maybe we'll create some new assumptions. So if you want to grab a purple sticky, we can put them over here too. But we're going to define the problem. So what is the problem that we want to solve? This app should solve a problem for our customers. What is that problem? What do you guys think? Now that we have a lot of these assumptions and needs and wants and goals, problem statement. I want to hear you guys talking this time.
So the technicians need to be more organized, I guess, as well.
Okay, yeah. So let's see. I'll do that sticky if you want. All right. Technicians need to organize what specifically? Because we need to have a specific problem to solve.
So they need to organize their daily tasks in order to establish, to kind of like be more productive so that they're more profitable, I guess.
Okay, so technicians need to organize their daily tasks to complete them on time.
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
No, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, going back to the assumptions for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're assuming that they have all the tools that they need. Was that on there?
No.
They have all the tools and all the equipment and it all works.
I can't spell. We have
Because I'm just thinking back on some real life situations I have experienced.
Right. So we're going to put
That's
that.
a
All the needed tools
huge
are there.
impediment. That can be a huge impediment to getting things done efficiently if you don't have the tools that you need, or they don't work, or
Yep. Perfect. I love that. So
people
again,
steal them every week. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, people might lose stuff, whatever. That could be a problem. That's actually a really good point. So if you think about like manufacturing stuff, lean is like a huge thing, right? And lean is like this manufacturing system that Toyota invented like back in the 80s, I think. And it's all about eliminating waste and how do we waste a lot of time. They do these things called value stream mapping, which actually are very similar to things that UX teams do. And one of the things that GE does is we actually get our UX teams to go to these value stream mapping exercises and go into Genba, which is like basically going to where the action is. It's Japanese for that. But anyway, they'll identify stuff like that, which is sort of off topic here, but they'll say like, maybe, because that's the thing, like when we're designing processes, and this is something actually interesting to think about. If you ask these right questions as like, maybe not in this design challenge, because the whole point is to get through the process of doing the app. But when you're in a real world scenario and people say we're not completing things on time, this could be one of the questions you ask. Why are they not completing these tasks on time? And someone might say, well, my tools are always being stolen, right? So like the answer might not even be software. The answer could be some other process that ensures the tools are there so you can do your work. So this is like, as a UX designer, I think that's one thing to know is like, we're not always designing software. We're not always designing screens. We could be designing a process, a paper process that helps solve a problem, but we take that design thinking approach and we apply it in other areas, which I think is like really powerful. And it's something that this process here of asking all these questions can apply to so many other things outside of designing pixels on a screen. Right. So, but making that assumption here is critical because it could change everything we do later. If we make the assumption that tools are always being lost, that screen we design will be totally different. Right. So that's a really great point. Thank you. D Hannum. Is that, what's your first name?
Dawn.
Don?
Yep. Dawn.
Yes. Oh, Dawn. Cool. So Dawn, great point. I love that a lot. All right. So let's see. So problem statements. So we have a couple. Management needs a way to keep up with estimated amount of time for daily tasks. Okay. So we're starting to see problems. So now what we're starting to do is we're starting to see like, I can design an interface that could help a user see that information, right? Does that make sense? You guys get what we're doing? So let's try to come up with a few more. And then I have some that I came up with that are kind of similar to these, which is good. And then we can start to, ideate some solutions and things that we're going to start designing. We have another hour and 15 minutes. So, one thing I'm not doing right now is like time boxing us based on like, the 15, 10, 20 minutes, whatever. But keep that in mind. Like part of this interview process is how do they manage their time? Are they just spending all their time on this first step and never getting past any other stuff? I've been in interviews where they literally never even started designing a screen because they just focused on all this other stuff. So let's see, we got some stuff coming in. Clients can be notified of the status. Okay. Not enough technicians. That could be a problem for sure. Let's see, technicians need a way to connect with management without being bothered during work. Okay. Technicians can be connected with the client. All right. That's sort of similar. I kind of grouped these together. And let's see. All right. We got a few. So let me go ahead and unhide mine down here and I'll pull these up. All right. So this is what I came up with. And again, it's not everything. We could probably come up with a million if we had enough time. But the thing about here is to know when to stop, right? We came up with a bunch. I got a good idea. Let's go. All right. So here's what I came up with. Ford dealerships don't know how much to charge for services. Okay. So we have an estimate. It seems to be wrong. We're consistently going over. That tells me that the Ford dealerships don't know how much an oil change should actually cost. Ford dealerships don't know how accurate labor hours are. So we might not actually be capturing the right amount of time to do an oil change. Maybe the labor time is totally off, and I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. Mechanics don't know how long they should take. Right. So maybe they're just kind of taking their time. I know we made some assumptions that they know what they're doing, but whatever, maybe they'll work faster if they knew exactly how much time it should take. 30 minutes instead of 45, for instance. I don't know. Ford dealerships are charging newer models the same cost as older models. So where I'm kind of making, and I had a little time to think about this, so maybe this is a little cheating, but remember we said before, cars are complex computers, right? So if the cost to do maintenance on a 1980 Ford was $100, and in 2020 we're still charging $100 for a car that's basically you need a computer software degree to fix, maybe we're charging the wrong thing. So we're charging for the older cars and we should be charging the newer cars. Again, I'm just making these up, but these are just some ideas that I came up with. Okay. All right. So does everybody understand what we're trying to do here? The difference between this phase and the last phase is we're starting to come up with problems that we could evolve in an interaction, a design, a workflow, a process to solve. We could start to kind of solve some of these. Does that make sense? Anybody have any thoughts or questions about this? Any insights?
I kind of like how the Ford, sorry, I keep talking, apologies.
That's okay.
But I kind of like how you've kind of defined the problem more towards like what the Ford dealerships are, kind of the missing bits there as opposed to the mechanic. So I like that it's kind of more targeted that way. So
yeah. Because like here's the thing, I this is just me, and I'm cheating a little bit because I come from like an industrial company and I work with like people on the shop floor, and there's always this like the blue collar hourly workers versus the white collar salaried employees, and there's always this like kind of like dichotomy between the two. The thing I've kind of come to think is like, the people doing the work, they know what they're doing, they just want to do their job, let them do it. They're not farting around and wasting time. A lot of times it's the people at the top have no idea what the people doing the work are actually doing. That's been my experience. So they come up with these processes and they come up with all this stuff and assuming that work is done a certain way, and it never is. So like the decisions they make up in the office and they're overlooking the little ants doing the work, it's usually wrong. And so if you could build some system to get them better insight into what the people are actually doing, That's usually where your problems are, in my opinion. I mean, it could be different everywhere, but so I guess I kind of cheat. I gravitated to this one a little bit because like my background in industrial environments and stuff, and so it may have been a little bit easier for me. All right, so this next step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start asking ourselves, how might we something, right? So what we want to do, and I'm going to start taking a few of these. I'm going to pull them over here, right? Not enough technicians. Technicians need to organize their daily tasks. So at this point, we're not throwing out ideas, okay? You may pick, I don't know, just for the sake of time, half of the stuff you came up with because you're going to run out of time. If you came up with 50 things, you obviously don't want to go through 50 things. How might we do each of these? So I don't know. For the sake of our time here, let's just grab like 5 of these. All right, so I don't know. I'm just picking one. Technically, need a way to track inventory for tools. All right, I like that. Maybe the costs are high because the consumables are going up. That's a good problem to solve. Four dealerships don't know how much to charge. All right, so we got 5 here. I just grabbed a couple of mine and a couple of everybody else's. And so what we want to do now at this point is we're going to separate them a little bit, and we're going to start to ask ourselves, how might we solve this? Okay, so I want you guys to come up with this. I actually didn't come with any myself because I didn't know what we would pick here. So how might we, let's just start at the top. Not enough technicians. So how might we solve this, right? So I'll give you an example to start off with, and you guys can. How might we determine the right amount of technicians, right? And we say HMW, just HMW. How might we determine the correct amount of technicians? Okay, now in this case, what I want to note is we could have a whole bunch of stickies associated with that one problem statement. How might we assign technicians? How might we, schedule accordingly? How might we do all these things? All of these, again, could be interactions that would relate to one workflow, which would be coming up with the right scheduling, right? Perhaps. Technicians need to organize their daily tasks, complete them. How might we show a list of tasks to a person? How might we organize their day efficiently? How might we blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense? Right? And so each one of these how might we's could turn into an individual part or a couple of steps in a larger workflow, which solves that one bigger problem, right? So what we're going to do next, once we get this here, is we're going to take one of these, and then we're going to start to kind of sketch out some stuff. Okay, that's what we're trying to do here. So we're getting to that next phase. All right. So how might we organize the technician's daily tasks? Who else? Anybody else have anything? All right. Again, I want to hear you guys talking. What are you guys thinking?
I would say for the technicians need a way to connect with management. Yes, okay. How might we create a system where I guess they can coexist without having to stop doing their daily tasks?
Yeah, there you go. How might we allow technicians and managements to interact efficiently? Put it on there. That's perfect. All right. Okay, I like it. All right. How might we create, how might we track, Deborah's typing something. Give it another minute. 2 minutes. Looks like people are still moving around. All right, so hurry up. How might we estimate the correct amount? I like that. All right, I'm gonna put a couple more. How might we track, how might we enter data without hands, without free hands? All right. How might we, let's see, a couple more. Think we need a way to track inventory. All right, so that's good. How technicians need a way to connect with management without being bothered during work. How might we, okay, so we got that. How might we organize daily tasks? All right, so here, let me put another one up in this organizing the daily tasks. How might we highlight priority tasks? Right, the ones that are most important that need to be or maybe the ones that are like over budget. Let's see, I'm gonna put another one. Doing work much. Okay. I don't know where to put this one specifically because I feel like it could fall under a couple of places. But how might we highlight over budget jobs? I don't know. Actually, that might be a different problem, right? I don't know if we put anything, but like insight into current work in progress. So a manager wants an overview of how much or what jobs are over budget. We didn't put that one, but that could be something. I'll put that one up at the top. We don't have to solve that problem, but some way to budget over jobs, maybe like a report, maybe there's a feature for a manager to get in and see all the jobs that are currently open. And they want to see the ones that are like in danger of going over or haven't gone over yet or have gone over. Maybe they want to see like, is there an interface where they can see that who is doing it? If there's one person that's consistently going over and nobody else is, maybe that person needs some additional training, right? Or maybe that person needs some help with something, or maybe he's overworked, or I don't know.
He's stealing the tools.
Maybe they're stealing. Yeah, sure. Right. Exactly. Maybe they're fudging their time, who knows? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking through, right? As we're designing this, these could all be things that we're throwing that in here. All right. So I'm gonna let you guys vote. Looks like we got, anybody else have anything before we move on to the next step? Nothing. Okay. Let's pick one of these rows to start designing. So what we want to do is like think of something here that will be an interesting design that could show off some of your design skills, right? Your wireframing skills. We're not going to get too high fidelity. You don't want it to be too simple. You don't want it to be too complex. It's something that's going to take you 10 hours or have to go do more research. Remember that you will make a lot of assumptions. And so you could tie a lot of these assumptions here and say, I'm going to make the assumption that we're doing this. I'm going to make the assumption that we're doing something else. I'm going to make the assumption whatever. So we could do this a couple of ways because there are a bunch of people on the phone. We could each take one that we like and design our own thing, because it's going to be hard to kind of do a design on here. I didn't really think about that. That's one thing, like when you're in you draw on a whiteboard, I don't know, I guess like I was thinking we could maybe do it on here and take a picture of it or something, or hold it up and show everybody, on a notebook or something. But we could each do that, or we could try to do it together. What do you guys want to do? Would you prefer to do it by yourself, or would you prefer to do it together? I don't really care. I didn't have like a...
Together, I think.
You want to do it together? All right, that's fine. All right,
Together.
So let's pick one. So we go through these one more time. So we don't know how much to charge for services. So an interface for understanding, or I think this problem would be, we want to track the accurate hours so we know how much time on average different jobs should take. That could be an option. Technicians and management need a way to track inventory for tools. So we want to design an interface that allows the users to order nuts and bolts, or order some special tool, something that's like a consumable tool that we have to reuse each time. Oil, for instance. We could design an interface for that. Technician needs a way to connect with management without being bothered during work. So some kind of notification system, like this thing is overtime, this thing is X amount of hours till you're over budget, that kind of thing. Technicians need to organize their daily tasks to complete them on time. So some kind of like dashboard, perhaps, that shows what you need to do today, the top priority items, how much time each is supposed to take, maybe how much time you've already spent, things like that. Not enough technicians, so a way for like a scheduling type of thing. So those are our options. We want to pick one and we want to refine it and start designing some stuff. Anybody have any thoughts on any of these before we move on, before we pick one? I have one I like that I think is like the most interesting, but I want to hear from y'all first. What do you think?
I like the track inventory for tools one.
Okay. Why do you like that
one? Just because I feel like we can create like little systems for the different things that the customers would need. And then, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm gonna start calling on you off, you know.
I like the one where technicians organize their daily tasks.
Okay.
Because you kind of can add the client in there to where they can see the progress of what's going on with their car as it goes along.
I hadn't even thought of that. I love that idea. We didn't put that on here. As like an owner of a car, I want to see the progress of my thing. We didn't think about that. All right, I like that. All right, so that's something else we could have put on here, right? How might we engage the customer, the client? I think actually some people did put that. But anyway, I love that idea. We didn't put that as a problem statement though, but we probably should have. Anybody else have any thoughts? One more person before I give my input. Nobody at all. Okay, that's fine. All right. So my thought, I personally, my personal preference, and I'm making this assumption or this decision based on the amount of flexibility I might have with a design, the amount of like kind of UX skills I could potentially show off with this choice. I'm going to pick, and the amount of time we have. My personal favorite is the dashboard. And that's only because I can kind of show out my visual design skills a little bit. I can show like layout and how different things might be. It's just a little bit different than like drawing a table on a screen, which to be honest, most enterprise applications tend to be tables. So like when you get a chance to do a dashboard, it's kind of fun. That's my personal preference. And that's why I think it allows you to kind of show off a little bit more, and you can do some other things with it that maybe deep dives, charts, graphs. You could do some like data viz skills, things like that. If you wanted to go and jump into there, I don't know. That's my thought. Does anybody else have any other, before we move on, anybody else have any other thoughts?
Yeah, who's going to be using this dashboard? The technicians?
Yeah, that's my thought. That could be an assumption that we make. This is to Amani's point a minute ago, this could be something that you could then use in other places as well. So, but for our purposes, we want to pick one. But it could be, like you said, it could be a dashboard as a, we start to write user stories or so, like think about user stories. As a technician, I want to see my list so that I know what to work on next, right? That could be a user story for an engineer to go build. So to me, that would be the technician seeing a dashboard. I log in, and I'm kind of getting to the solutioning aspect here, but it's fine because we're about to hop into it. I log in in the morning. I have my top 10 tasks. I see the one that is highlighted as a priority. Maybe this customer has had a million problems with the car and they're really pissed off, and so somebody can, I don't know, flag a job as high priority. So that one comes to the top of the list, and I work on that one first. So those are like, I'm starting to design, like maybe there's like some like iconography on the page, or maybe there's some, interesting layout or some interesting thing that highlights this first task. So that's kind of where I'm going. Does that make sense? Now, that said, if we have time, we can always start to design some other things as well, right? So in this case, we scheduled for our next time about 25 minutes, but if we take like 10 or 15 minutes to do one, and we say, you know what, this would be really cool if like we could design a dashboard for the customer, or we could design a dashboard for the manager to see a list of all the jobs, and we could start to like expand on this. We don't have to just do that one. So, but again, as we progress, the thing that we do want to say is we want to call out those assumptions. So like you just asked, who is this for? We should be saying who this is for. I'm going to design this for the technician, and state that, so that as you're designing this on the whiteboard, the people interviewing you understand what you're doing. Does that make sense? All right. So I guess what I'm going to do, I want to take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes for us to just sort of sketch some stuff. I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to try to do this. I'll just try to, or if anybody wants to take a stab at it, feel free to try to do something on Miro. If you want to use the little shapes and everything, it's kind of neat. The stuff that they can do, you can build some like quick little prototypes, or sketch on a notebook. And then we can take like 5 minutes and go through each person's stuff if you want. If you don't want to present, that's fine. But let's start thinking about this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to pull these over. So let's see. I just drew a shape by mistake. I didn't mean to do that. So let's see which one we wanted to do the thing. All right. So I'm going to throw this up here. I'm going to move this over to the top. One thing that I would also say is, like, as you come up with ideas, feel free to throw them up on this board. This is not by any means like some, like, you know, built in stone process. If we come up with an idea and we want to throw something up there, throw it up there. You know, we made some assumptions over here. You know, mechanics, let's see, internet connectivity is good. We said, all the tools are there. All the tools will work. Technicians are receiving their lunch breaks properly. I have to know it. I like that. Technicians are finding additional tasks which are taking up extra time during maintenance. So this could be, you know, how might we highlight things that are taking longer? Maybe there's subtasks. Maybe we expand. Maybe there's a task list from this main dashboard that they could check off as they go. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe there's a watch app that like could integrate with this thing. So like as I go, I tap the thing and say I'm done. Or there's a timer that alerts me I got 10 minutes to go. You know, I'm just thinking through things. These are like solutions that we can start to draw on the board. Okay. So I'm going to pull these over. Let's see. Any other assumptions we made? Mechanics want to keep client to be able to track the time spent on specific tasks. Here, let's see. All right. So what you would be doing, what I'm doing right now, is I'm kind of just like going through all of the assumptions that we made and all of the little stickies that we put together. And I'm going to move them over to that board. So remember, if you're on a whiteboard and you got these things, move them around and put them where, like, you know, get all the junk, all the noise out of the way and grab the ones that you want to, that you know you're going to focus on. So we're going to move these over. And I'm just going to like pull some stuff over. Difficult to run wires, not a lot of room for hardware, messy shop floor. Yeah, let's see. Anything else? We need to finish work quickly. Blah, 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 blah. I think this is good. All right. Okay. So I'm going to move these over.
One thing, and I'm very, very new to this, and I've only worked on some theoretical task kind of prototype things, but one of the first things that you might start thinking about is what already exists that's something similar to what you have in mind.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
In the interest of saving time and effort.
Yeah. So, you know,
also,
this is one
to
thing.
make it also in the interest of usability, because if you come up with some brilliant thing that nobody's ever seen before and they don't know how to use it.
Exactly. So that's the thing about UX that I think a lot of people miss. And this is like where and to me, I'm not on Dribbble. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not any of that crap. I think it's all great and people want to do that stuff and make these beautiful, like innovative, quote unquote, innovative designs. But if users can't use it, it's unusable and it's worthless. There's a reason why every site has a hamburger menu, or every site has a bottom nav, or every site has a similar layout. It's because people understand how to use them, right? And you might hate the hamburger nav, but guess what? If you try to change it, people are going to get confused as hell, and no one's going to know to click the button to open up the menu, right? So you're absolutely right. That is like a critical aspect, and it's like the law of there's like a psychological law. I should know what this is, but I can't think off the top of my head. And that is like users understand things they already know. So if you know of an app that is similar to this, don't be afraid to take ideas from it, right? If there's a task management app that you use, like AnyDo or Google Tasks or Apple Tasks or something like that, and it does something that you think would apply here, feel free to use it. Unless it's like, you know, proprietary and you can't for some legal reason. But being innovative for the sake of being innovative isn't always the best thing, in my opinion.
That's what I mean. And then, I mean, there's no reason, if it's, you can get inspiration from something, even if it is technically,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
copyright.
There's Nielsen Norman Group. I don't know, you guys may be familiar. If you aren't familiar, please subscribe to their podcast, subscribe to their newsletter, go to their website. Nielsen Norman Group, NNG is what you might see a lot of times. They're UX researchers. They've been around literally as like before UX was a thing, from like I think the 80s or even earlier. And they're like the godfathers, Jacob Nielsen and Don Norman, I think their names are. Anyway, they're two guys. They're like the godfathers of what we consider UX design today. And one of the interesting things that they've always said is good design isn't good UX, or good UX isn't always good design. Like for instance, they're big on the blue. Hyperlinks are blue because everyone knows hyperlinks are blue. Hyperlinks have underlines because everyone knows that they are hyperlinks. Buttons have a certain shape. Those are the kinds of things, like trying to design some new button or new hyperlink is going to confuse people. They're not going to know it's a hyperlink. So anyway, the idea there being people understand what they know. Don't try to reinvent the wheel if the wheel works. So that's a great point. I love it. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna I didn't set a timer. Let's do, so it's 2:24 right now. Let's go till 2:34, 10 minutes. Is that enough time? Do you guys feel we can check in? We don't have to have anything done. This is just a workshop, so it doesn't really matter. Let's do till 2:34 or on the 34, whatever time it is for y'all. In 10 minutes, and we'll check in. And if anyone has any thoughts, any insights, and they want to speak up, please, by all means, I'd be happy to hear it. All right. I'm gonna sketch some stuff. I'll probably be talking while I do it. So actually, I'm not going to talk because that's probably going to bother you guys, but. Problem as a whole, right? So how does this relate back to the problem statement, which was Ford needs a way to lower costs, right? Increase profits. This speaks to that because this is what they said, and this is why this solution fits that thing, and why I think this solution would solve that problem, right? So you're taking it back to the first step, and you're saying the pre-first step, this is how this solution I designed solves that problem that you were looking for to increase profitability, decrease costs, whatever it is your solution intended to do. So you want to, obviously we're going to go really quick because we got a bunch of people, but you'd want to go in depth about that. Just keep that in mind. All right. Mm-hmm. So it's 2:30, it's 2:36 right now. Let's do like a 10-minute break. If you want to finish doing your mock-ups in the next 10 minutes, it's fine. Coffee, water, bathroom break, whatever. I think we're going till 3:15. So we'll meet at 2:45. Let's do that. 2:40 or whatever the 45 is for you. And then we'll have another 30 minutes to kind of talk through everybody's stuff and final QA. And then I think this is over at the 15, right?
So, sorry, Jeremy, just to make it easier for us here in the UK, just give us like meet back in 5 minutes, meet back in 3 minutes. That will make it easier.
That's cool. What's the end time for this? I can't remember. Do we have till
8:15 in the UK?
15. Okay, cool. So if we meet back in the next 5-10 minutes, then we can we'll go through everybody's solution. We'll talk about it, and then we'll do some final Q&A and some pitfalls and things like that.
Perfect. So if we say latest back here by 7:45, for everyone, UK time.
Cool. All right. See you in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. Great. Good. Let's see who wants to talk through their stuff next. It's this one with manager technician overview dashboard. Who is that?
That's me. Hi.
All right. Hey, Connie. What do you got? Talk us through it.
Yeah, of course. So this is from the manager perspective on managing the employees or the technicians. And so I have here the available technicians, because I don't think it would be good to assign a task to like overload too many tasks on one technician.
Sure, yeah.
And clients in waiting. So I thought the name of the client, the task, and maybe a little bit more information would be good, but this is just what I have so far. And then the duration of maybe the duration of the task, but I just wrote duration, and then the priority. So how big of, or how if the task, like how high of a priority is the task. And so maybe assigning 1 or 2 technicians to one task, rather than just having one technician on one task, might help make time go by faster, assigning multiple technicians to a task.
Yeah.
And this is just one dashboard, one page.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so I could even see how you could expand this. Like you might want to show technicians that are being underutilized, perhaps. They don't have enough work. So could we write some algorithm or something that could highlight who has, who needs work for that shift or whatever. I don't know. I've never worked at a car dealership. So like, I don't know if they have like a shift meeting in the morning where they go, you work on this, you work on that. I have no idea how that works, but I imagine that if there isn't one, a meeting like that could probably help. And this could be a tool to facilitate that meeting, perhaps, right? If that kind of shift meeting doesn't work, doesn't happen in the beginning. Cool. I love it. Anything here, any ways that you would maybe try to validate it, or things that you were unsure of? Maybe, one of the things I would say is, as you're going through this, like self-critique is important. Like, I wasn't sure about this, but then I did this, and, this might not have been the right decision, but, blah, blah, blah. We can always validate it. Anything like that, anything that you maybe would change?
Maybe the drag and drop it's a little bit easier, but then over time, I think it might be a little bit annoying, but at the same time, it's a fast and efficient way. Yeah. It's faster than typing the technician names, but it's a little bit, but then it requires a lot of mouse work. So I don't know if the managers.
Here's what you do with that. This is where you say this could be a great opportunity for us to do a usability study and see, do users prefer a search that auto types or auto type ahead type of thing that auto completes a technician's name? I can use my keyboard, or would they prefer a drag and drop thing, right? So that's the way you can go do a usability study. It is sort of anecdote, interesting story here, but my work that I do, we build an application sort of similar to this, but it's for like jet engine repair, right? And so, just like an oil change, every X amount of hours, the engines come off the wing and they're taken apart and inspected and stuff. And it's a very similar process. And what we envisioned, us like techies, like, touch screens everywhere and it's going to be awesome and blah, blah, blah. And like the first thing that they did when we installed the touch screens, they went into the storeroom, they found a mouse and a keyboard and they plugged it in. They hated the touch screen. So this is something like you could say, like, this is where you could speak to this. We need to validate this. And this shows like your critical thinking skills. Like, I think we are not our users. I am not my user. I am not a mechanic, right? So the assumptions that I make about what a mechanic would do could be completely wrong. And so we want to say that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not this person. You're asking me, because we're designing apps for people all the time that are not us and we would probably never use, especially if we're doing it for work, So speaking to that, I think is really great. That's like shows a lot, like you're analyzing your own self, constraints or your own limitations rather. So I love that. That's perfect. Cool. Great work. Anybody else? Who's next? Who's got this one? The T1, T2, T3 down the bottom. Who's that?
Oh, that's me.
All right, Deborah, what you got?
Okay. I think I kind of got a bit distracted, so
that's okay.
Please let me know if I didn't hit the mark. But basically, I tried to work on a dashboard that might be helpful for the technicians as well as the Ford like head office, and also it could translate to the customer in time. Who knows? But so it's really straightforward. I kind of did it as like a task manager. The circle, it's a bit weird. I couldn't really work it out on Miro, but it's supposed to represent a day, like a 24-hour clock or a 12-hour clock, or whatever the shift is. The tasks at the top are highlighted here. These are not exhaustive. There might be more, there might be less. But the kind of thinking behind it was that the technician could select the day of the week, put their name in, put the car that they're working on, put the task that they're working on, and it can kind of measure the time that it takes for them to
like let them build their own schedule, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's awesome.
The way that it would work for the Ford, for like head office, for you know, prioritizing tasks and seeing where they're losing money, they can kind of use this data to find out what's taking too long or what's not cost effective. And for the customer, they can use it as Dawn was saying, to them progress of how long it's taking for their car. I think it was Dawn. Maybe. It was
no, I love that. You know, one of the things one of the things you could call out here if you were doing this would be, you know, we would build this in a configurable way so that depending on the shop, some shops may want to do something different. If one shop wants a supervisor, a shift supervisor, or somebody to manage this for the technicians, we could build it in a way that allows them to do it. Or if the technicians wanted to create their own day, we could let them do it on their own. So you could kind of talk to how this could be configurable, and you could talk about that. And, or again, usability studies. Would a shop want their users to do this for themselves, or would they want to tell the users what to do and assign people to different ones and not let people build their own day? So that's a great opportunity there to talk about validation and things like that. You know, I like that a lot. If anybody out there is kind of like got an experience and background in like development, one of the things you could talk about here would be, you know, we could use this component or this framework or whatever, and talk through that. Just, you know, highlight some of those skills, some of that knowledge that you might have, and show how you could do this or that. So I'm going to go through some of the stuff I came up with real quick. So I didn't do it on here, but I have some, I don't know if you can see this. I kind of came up with this idea of a dashboard. It's got like the task for the day, maybe a chart that shows your history for the week or something, and like time allocation, like you spent X amount of time on this or that. You know, I'm not exactly sure what that could be. Maybe like a graph that shows the various jobs, a star to highlight whatever the next one is, for instance. Let's see, the other one could be like a drill down. So I open that job and then I see, you know, the tasks I have to complete, and I can check them off. And maybe this one is like the task I'm on now. There's a timer I can start, right? If maybe this is the second day and I just, you know, pulled this job up from yesterday, I can start my timer. And then some instructions, like this is how you change a car's oil change, whatever, you know, like unplug this thing and then blah, blah, blah. Some instructions that help you follow. Cause, you know, I'm thinking like if I don't know how to work on a specific Acura, for instance, or Ford, I guess Lincoln comes in or whatever other fancy car that might not come in all the time. Maybe I don't know how to do that particular car. Maybe there's a library in the shop with like a bunch of paper manuals I have to go sift through, and it takes me an hour to find it. If we just, you know, we're able to digitize that somehow. Again, this is an assumption you could make. Like, I'm assuming we have this digitized. You know, that could be an easy way for you to, I don't know, solve some stuff. And then, I don't know, some various other things. I'll take a photo and I'll put it on here so you guys can see it. But last thing I thought of was like gamification. How can we gamify this to like, you know, get technicians competing against each other? Maybe you give them an award if they like are the, you know, they come in under budget. Whoever comes in the least amount of hours gets a gift card or I don't know, some kind of prize or a day off or parking space. You know, you can make it whatever you want. That could be another thing. So I'll take a picture. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that, but those are the kinds of things. I think a lot of this stuff, just like anything else, could be validated. I did come up with this idea. Actually, this was one, like a watch, like if you could give them watches. This is probably cost prohibitive, but you know, you start and stop your timer. Maybe it vibrates when you're getting over time and you're getting like 5 minutes to the time or some percentage towards the end, and you start wrapping it up. Start, stop, things like that. Those are just some ideas I came up with. I don't know. But again, that's one of those things, like that's a lot of money. Are we going to be able to do that? Let's go to the shops and ask if they can afford those types of things, because it doesn't matter how well you design a watch app. If they can't afford to buy all the technicians' watches, it's useless, right? So those are the kinds of things that you want to talk to, think of. We got about like 20 minutes. I want to make sure we got time for questions and stuff. Anybody else that did not put stuff on here, maybe sketch some stuff out, had some cool ideas, wanted to talk through?
I've got mine at the bottom. If you just scroll down.
Oh, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, there.
No, it's not that one to the side. Yeah, it's that phone one.
Yeah, cool.
Do you see it?
I didn't even see these down here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So no, it's fine. I'm actually quite new at this. So what I decided to do was kind of a platform for where technicians can put all their, where they know where their tasks are. So then obviously the tasks are colored in from red to green, which is the red one is the more urgent one. And then the amber one, and obviously they can see the days that they've done it. But then I kind of question myself, could they use this tool every time they finish their tasks, whether it's on their phone where they just swipe it up saying, yeah, they've ticked it off. But at the same time, this actually could help with their efficiency when it comes to getting their work done. But then you obviously said, oh, maybe they can have it with their watch. And I'm thinking, yeah, because most apps are on watches, they can just, click it off or slide it up when they finish with that. So, yeah.
So those are the kinds of things you might want to talk through. We're designing stuff for iPad, the stuff I came up with, I guess could be an iPad app or something. Yours is a phone. These are the kinds of things where you might say, will the technicians be given phones? Are we going to ask them to use their personal phones? A lot of people might not want to do that. So these are the kind of questions that you would want to bring up and say, I'm thinking about this. These are real things that could keep this solution we're designing from ever becoming a reality. If, this isn't possible to give them a phone, then what are we going to do? So these are the kinds of things that you'd want to speak to, design your stuff and get it out there. And this is the cool thing I came up with. However, there are some constraints that we would need to talk through here. So as and again, as you're doing this in real life with a client, if Ford comes to you and they say, design us a phone app, and you don't ask that question, how are you going to get people a phone?
Okay.
What was the point of design, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I love it. So this is awesome, because these are kind of critical questions that we would want to ask our customers, our clients in real life, right? You want us to design a watch app. Who's giving them a watch? Are you going to buy them a watch? Are you going to expect them to buy their own $500 iPhone watch? Right? So, or iWatch, or watch, whatever they're called. So those are the questions you want to ask clients. You want to ask those things, and we can make an assumption for this purpose here that everyone will get a watch, and that's fine. But when we're in a real world scenario, those are the kinds of critical questions that can make or break a project.
Yeah,
and
we can't assume that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this is perfect. I love it, guys.
Thank you very much.
So let's see. There was a couple of things that we didn't get to talk through before we got back in the presentation. Actually, before we hop into that, anybody have any thoughts, questions? How did you guys feel about that? Did it get a little bit less terrifying towards the end, I hope?
No,
it doesn't. I promise.
No,
it gets better. It gets better with practice, though.
How often is something like a site visit part of your process?
It all depends on,
because I don't spend a lot of time in garages.
Yeah.
So, I don't have, if my personal experience is limited in this thing, how am I going to design an app for somebody if a dashboard for somebody, if I don't know what their life is like?
Yeah. Well, that's all part of our process. That's right. That's exactly right. That's part of the UX
to go process. And see it.
Yeah.
Is going to take a lot of my mistakes out of it. Because right now what I did is kind of drawing on my experience, because years ago I had a job where we were all working on different contracts. And so our time had to be billed, down to 15-minute increments. So if you worked on project A for half an hour, you had to write in half an hour on your timesheet. And it went electronic by the time I left, but when I first got there, it was all done manually, and it was just a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, those are the kinds of things that will depend drastically on the company you work for. Some companies will have you there all the time. Some might not. Some might want you to do it remotely. It all depends on the company. These are the kinds of questions that you should ask in an interview, right? If you're going to get a job at an industrial company, for instance, like GE, for instance, how often do you get to go and visit with customers or users? Do you get to do that? Do you have tools? Do you have a research team? A lot of times there might actually be research teams that will do a lot of that, and then they might provide a bunch of artifacts. And as UX, we do research, desk research, and go and like read through all their documentation or listen in on their user interviews, or maybe they took videos or photos from a shop visit. You know, right now with COVID, it's pretty unlikely we're going to be traveling maybe the next 6 months to a year, but you know, these are things that you should be asking in an interview, you know, depending on where you go, right? Sometimes you know, if you get a job at like a bank, everybody has a bank account pretty much, right? So you could do guerrilla testing with anybody off the street essentially, and have them do a test or an interview in some way. So it all depends on where you're working and who, and these are great questions to ask in an interview. Yeah. All right. So anybody else, any thoughts, closing thoughts about that last 15 minutes? I want to go through some stuff, but I want to know what you guys think. If you have any questions about the process, please feel free to reach out, and we can always chat afterwards too. You can always, and I can stay for a little bit longer if anybody wants to stay, but
I thought it was good. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. I hope you guys got something out of it. All right. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, this is what we're looking for. They're not looking for you to finish this. They're not looking for you to finish. You will not finish. You will likely not finish this. I can promise you right now. Remember that. You will not finish. The time will go way faster than you expected. It's not about finishing. It's not about the final output. It is not about that at all. It's about your collaboration skills. It's about your ability to ask questions, the right questions. It's about your problem solving skills, the personality fit. You know, if you were like all giggly and bubbly and happy and you know, bouncing off the walls, and everyone in that room is like deadpan and like serious, you might not be a good fit for that team. Now, one thing that I would say is that this is a really great opportunity for you to interview the people you will be working with and decide is this the person I want to work? Do I even want a job here? Because if these people are treating you poorly and they're deadpan and dead, you know, like really serious, do you want that job? You know, you might not want that job. So like, this is a great opportunity for you to also interview the people who you will be working with. So it goes both ways. Is the personality fit good for you? Is it good for them? This is like what we're trying to get through here. Again, it's not about the final output. Some common mistakes that people make with this: not asking enough questions, just not even, you know, just and making assumptions, not stating them, not including interviewers in the process. Ask them if they want to be a user. Can I interview you? Can I do a mock interview with you? Can I do a user research with you? You know, who are you? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What do you like? You know, whatever. These are questions you should be asking them. Not talking through the process, getting stuck on one of those steps and not progressing forward. Because again, it's about time management as much as it is about the other things. Getting too detailed in the solutions, right? So if you notice, like my solution is like really small. I didn't draw anybody's name. I just drew a line that represents their name. Like, don't bother writing out every form field. Just put like, you know, first name, last name, and just say that, like draw a line and have that represent the form field. Like, you don't need to get too detailed with this. Focusing on perfection. Do not focus on, this is like dirty. It's rough. It's low fidelity. Do not try to make it perfect. Cause again, you might not even get all the way done anyway. And then don't forget, this whole thing is absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying for me still. And I do that. It's terrifying for me to interview people. I like constantly, I don't know if you guys experience this, but like when you watch TV and it's like a really uncomfortable situation, like I turn the TV, I'm like, I can't watch this. This is just like Larry David and like Curb Your Enthusiasm, like a lot of like that kind of stuff. I'm like, I can't watch this. It's like too, it makes me like feel weird and awkward. And I get that a lot of times when I'm doing these interviews, because people get so like, they just lock up and just have fun with it. Just do not sweat it, and practice. This is the site that I told you guys about. It's called sharpen.design. And this is just like design prompts. You can come in here, you can select product UX design. You can select, you know, digital products, and you can just do a thing. Design a web app for a composer. Design a camera focused app for a hot sauce brand in France. Design 3 feature icons for medical startup. Design a banner for whatever. Just like you keep going through this. This is how I got design an app for Ford or something. Practice this. Just, you know, there's a bunch of other design prompt sites like this. Get your friends, get a bottle of wine, some shots, whatever, and have fun with it. The more you do this, the more comfortable you will get. And when you go into an interview and you have fun with the people that are interviewing you, I promise it doesn't matter what the output is and how much how bad that design you think is. If the people enjoy your company and the soft skills, they notice the soft skills, I guarantee you're going to be so far ahead of anybody else. So those are some things to consider. The other thing I might say is, you know, when you're doing this, like, try to stay away from really boring and mundane. So like, think like a watch app, like we talked about, or like something off the wall, like a VR app. Like we could have done like augmented reality, like headset for this, right? Technicians have all that stuff like right in their face. You know, if you didn't say that was a constraint and money is no object, augmented reality app, baby. So those are the kinds of things, like, you're going to stand out because I guarantee everyone else is going to do like a phone app or something really simple. But like, you were the one who had the augmented reality with all this stuff going on. So keep that in mind. You want to kind of some crazy ideas. You'll more likely to stand out that way. Any final, we got 10 minutes left. Questions in general, anything you want me to try to answer, I'll do my best. I know there's got to be questions. Nothing at all. Dawn, you don't have any questions? Dawn, come on.
I was just wondering, when is the next one of these?
I don't know. We don't have any scheduled, but anytime you want, man. One of the things I was actually going to suggest, I am a mentor with Black Valley, but also adplist.org. And if you want, you can adplist.org, and you can find me on there, schedule some time with me. I'm happy to do like one-on-one conversations. You want to just schedule some time with me. My calendar is up to date. I'm happy to go through this with you guys at any point, and we could walk through this. If you have, I'm happy to like portfolio review, whatever, it doesn't matter. I want you guys to feel comfortable with yourself and with like your knowledge and your understanding of this whole process. So we can do one of these. I'm happy to schedule another one-on-one, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay, because there's like a local meetup group that I know a guy who just talks about user interfaces.
Okay.
For
where
2
located?
hours. I'm sorry?
Where are you located?
Istanbul.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That's awesome. I've never been. I want to go.
So there's a guy there's a guy here who every so often he just opens his webcam and we talks about user interfaces. And
that's cool. That's awesome.
I was just thinking, maybe if we pull up something like this and start doing this, it will be a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I can create a template on Miro. I think you can. I can publish a template. Maybe I'll publish this template and you guys can use it. And I mean, to be fair, this is one I just kind of threw together this week. There's probably a million other ones out there. This may not be the best one, but feel free to just practice. That's the only way that this is gonna get less terrifying. The more you do this, the more fun you have. And I'm telling you, like, when you go into an interview and you're having fun with the people that are interviewing you, it doesn't matter if you're the best designer in the world. It doesn't matter. If the best designer comes in and they're an asshole, I promise you'll get the job over that person who's like the most amazing designer ever, because people don't want to work with people like that. So, that's not a hard and fast rule. Don't hold me to that. But if it were me, that's how I would judge it. So, yeah, I don't know. Lucky, what you got, man? We got another 8 minutes.
ADP list, was it adplist.com,
.org, yeah. .com may work, I'm not sure. Sorry, I got like kids screaming in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. Anyway, Lucky, what you got, man? We got another 8 minutes. You got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, well, before we kind of move on to that, I think Connie asked a good question, like, how do we move forward? I don't know.
I didn't even see the chat. Was there questions in the chat?
Yeah, I think that just came in recently.
Apologies. I was gonna unmute, but then
how do you
I was just waiting.
There it is. Stop sharing.
Oh, sorry, I muted you by mistake, Jeremy. You need to unmute yourself again. Sorry. You're on mute. Okay. Can you hear me? So if you click on bottom left, yeah. Can't hear you again. Sorry.
I think like my fan's going and I think my computer's about to explode. Anyway, it was like frozen and I couldn't click the button. I didn't see the chat. I'm sorry. I was like sharing, I guess, the whole time, and I didn't see that the chat. Anyway,
yeah, I think we probably could wrap up with a question. I think that kind of moves us like to the next step, really, like in terms of how do we move forward. I'm guessing, is that in terms of design? I don't know if you want to maybe clarify that question, Connie.
Yeah, so in terms of design in general, and maybe if some of the people in this group can use this design or use any of your guys' resources moving forward or something like that, or should we keep building on this this design, or should we keep practicing through the website?
Yeah, I mean, you can. What I would say, yeah, for me, you know, like the design is insignificant, is inconsequential here. And is those steps that you got to, that you went through to get to that design. That's what I want to see as an interviewer. I want to see those steps. The last thing is irrelevant. I couldn't care less. What I want to see is the questions you ask. So like, it's not about this challenge. Do you go to that design prompt site and just hit refresh a million times and just start doing each one. Do one a day if you, I mean, I don't know if you have time to do that, but like just practice that whole process of problem solving and asking questions and critical thinking is the next step, is just keep refining that and practicing that. And ultimately the goal is to get a job and not have to do this all the time. But, you know, to me, this is like kind of one of those things that's like, you stand out so much when you come in prepared for these challenges. I can't tell you how many times I've had an interview and they just didn't say a word. They didn't say a word for like 10 minutes. And I was just like, is this what's going to be like when we work together? You know, like, I don't want to, you know, so that's the next step. The next step is just get comfortable doing it. You know, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Good. Yeah, that does. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry about the thing we designed today. Delete it. It doesn't matter. We're not refining it. Nobody's going to see it, but find another problem and then start over.
Perfect. Well, I think on that note then, yeah, just to kind of like say a massive thank you on behalf of everyone. I actually end up staying for the whole thing, Jeremy. I think initially I thought maybe it's not going to be funny, but I enjoyed every minute of it and stayed for the whole thing. So thank you for delivering the wonderful.
Oh, right on, man. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I don't know. This is great. Hit me up if anybody's got any questions. Find me on LinkedIn, jmillspaysbills.com, and
I'm not sure if that's me, my internet, or your internet. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you again. Yeah, and please, follow Jeremy on LinkedIn. Just, I think maybe for the sake of Don and anyone else that's not part of the Black Valley cohort currently going on. Essentially, what we do is basically try and support talent in tech to access industry, especially Black talent is our focus area, specifically for a reason, because we want to raise the profile of Black people within tech to make sure we're better represented and we're able to create products that represent us and is not biased towards us as a people. So if you are a Black person or from a Black ethnic background,
yeah, I can say that, yeah.
Perfect. If you are, eligible for the program, please have a look on our website and you can apply for
I applied already, thank you.
Okay, awesome. We're screening the applications, so hopefully we'll be able to get back to you at some point early next week. In regards to that. In terms of next steps as well, I think myself and Jeremy will probably have an offline conversation of whether to do this regularly, maybe to keep our cohort more, get more practice, and then maybe actually to open the door for other people as well to benefit from what we're doing. So we'll probably take that offline conversation. More practically from me, from the current cohort of Black Valley, we have our graduation on Monday. Whoop, whoop. I hope you guys are excited. We've got a great panel that's going to be supporting us on the day. If you haven't got a ticket yet, make sure you get the ticket on the Eventbrite page. It's Monday, the 1st of March, 6:15 to 8:15. Promises to be special. So grab a ticket, invite friends, invite family. It's a day to celebrate yourself, and you will officially receive your certificate. The other thing that alongside that as well is sharing your experience. So I'm hoping you guys have had a good experience of the program. So if you have, please tell other people about it, your friends, to either sign up, follow us on social media, be engaged, and share your experience of the program, of the event tonight as well, and talk about what we do. Like, we are quite a small company starting, but it's good for other people to know about what we do. And then lastly, from my point of view, on that Monday graduation event, I would like to showcase highlights from the past 8 weeks. So as a UX UI designer, if you have a particular highlight, it might be this, it might be the network event workshop that we had. Any highlight that you've had over the past 8 weeks, send me like at my email, or drop me a message on Slack. Email is leke@blackvalley.co.uk. Is 8:15, and we do like to finish things on time. Once again, if people maybe could unmute themselves and just say massive thank you to Jeremy, and then we'll end it on that really. From everyone, from all of us, thank you, Jeremy.
No, honestly, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
I hope this carries on, honestly.
Yeah, they'd be fun. Do this regularly. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. And for everybody that's like nighttime, go get dinner and go to sleep.
Perfect. Thank you again, Jeremy. And then see everyone at graduation. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank y'all.
Bye.